Screwed the oil filter on, tightened and retorqued the drain plug, filled the oil the proper amount, and ran it. Now just check the oil. Mother! Now if your dipstick tube has ever broken off, which is not uncommon an issue for any car really, these are made of plastic and they become brittle. They can break off from time to time. I'm going to show you guys how to replace it. Now this is how I replace it. There are other ways to do this job. This just is the easiest way for me to do the job. So again, there's probably another way to do it. This is the way I did it. So hopefully it's helpful for you. Looks like it's easy enough just to remove the entire dipstick tube assembly and replace that, or just remove it and then it's easier to remove the dipstick that way. But that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to just remove the dipstick tube, and you guys can follow along and fix yours as well. Save you some time in the garage, maybe save you some money taking it into the shop to get this done. But let's go over what we're going to be using for this job today, and then we'll get started. Alright, the tools you need are pretty simple. Just a 10mm wrench, WD-40, a rag, jack, as well as jack stands. And we'll need the actual dipstick itself. I'll just put a link in the description. You can go to Advance or any of the auto parts stores will have this dipstick for you, but I'll put a link in the description so you know which one to get. That's all we need. Let's get started. Alright, first thing, we'll start under the car. Now my car has none of the belly pan stuff on it. It all ripped off pretty much immediately after I got the car, so I have no belly pan stuff. You do have to remove the belly pan to do this part, but as you can see, mine does not have that. Alright guys, so before we loosen anything, what I like to do is put a little bit of WD-40 on the dipstick tube itself, where it goes into the oil pan up here. See that right there? Alright, just get that coated, and then we'll move up to the top. We'll loosen the nuts that secure that, and that's just going to make that a little bit easier to remove that dipstick tube out of the oil pan. Alright guys, so there are two nuts. One is under this cover here, or this clip. Just remove this clip here. Pretty easy, just move that, get that out of the way. There's one nut over there, and then there's another one on the other side over there. So again, since we have our WD, spray that stuff down, and that'll make that easier to remove. After that, WD's had some time to saturate. We'll just remove the nuts here and lefty-loosey. This is where a swivel ratchet wrench is nice, but anything will work. I guess as you can see, got the nuts off. That's going to take quite some time if you don't have a nice flexible ratcheting wrench, but take your time. The only reason it's a pain is because if you look, these are crimped at the top. The actual nut at the top is pinched in a little, and that's to keep that from backing out. So it's going to take some time. These aren't going to really spin off by hand, but yeah, put them on something where you know where they're at, you don't lose them. Once you have those nuts removed, we'll come back down here, and this is where you have the most leverage to pull this dipstick tube out. We'll just lift up, gonna pull that up. Now there is still a dipstick in there, so this is gonna be a little bit difficult. Pull up far, and then when you pull this out, you're gonna bend the dipstick, but it's not a big deal at this point because we are gonna be replacing it, so don't worry. Grab onto the dipstick tube here. I'm just grabbing it up high right here, and you're just going to push up on the dipstick itself. Now we have that pushed up through the tube, and when we look up top there, we should be able to remove the dipstick at this point. That broken end is now going to be sticking out enough that you can grab it and pull that out. Alright, once we have that removed, we'll just take the dipstick tube and we'll fish it back through. And we'll put the dipstick tube, we'll rest it on the actual studs there. And take a nut and we'll just thread it on, just start it on there. Alright, so a couple of turns in, you just want to start it on there so this can move up and down a bunch. That's going to be important. Alright, once you do that and this tube is empty, we got the dipstick out. It's going to be a lot easier to reinstall, but thread that nut on there, go back down. Alright, so now we have that on there. This can move and we can push this up and into the oil pan. It's going to be a little bit of resistance, but you'll see why we put that nut on there in a minute. But you just want to push that up and into the actual housing there on the oil pan. Let that rest in there, and then we'll move back top side again and we'll secure everything down. Alright, so the reason why we put that nut on there is so when you're putting that back into the oil pan, it doesn't push this off, and then you're going to be in this vicious cycle of trying to get it in the oil pan and trying to get it on these studs at the same time. So we know it's now in the oil pan, it's on the studs here, just have to push this down in till it seats into the oil pan, and then just tighten those nuts back up and this job will be done. Don't forget your wire clip. Put it back on, if it's there. Alright guys, moment of truth. Oil dipstick in. Now we check our oil. Oil looks good. That's how you replace the oil dipstick, guys. Really, that's how an oil change can take an hour. That's really what this is. You know, the 20-minute oil change turned into an hour. It's not that difficult to replace this. It's not something that you really need to freak out about if it happens to you. It's pretty straightforward, a pretty simple job to do. You don't have to remove the dipstick tube. All you have to do is just get it out of the way enough that you can push the actual dipstick back out of the tube. And for me, I think it's a little bit safer because you're not trying to drill into this plastic and getting stuff down in your engine. There's a potential for that happening. I've seen all kinds of different videos on how to do it. Some people take epoxy and they epoxy this to the dipstick, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This for me is the surefire thing. It works. It's fairly easy. Again, there's only 2 nuts holding this on, and yeah, it's going to take you a little bit longer than the other methods, but I feel it's going to work every time you do it. And again, you're probably not going to have an issue where you're going to get stuff down into your oil pan. And I don't know, it's just another way of doing stuff, guys. That's going to do it for this video. If you want to see anything else done on the Chrysler, if I have issues with my car, you know, I'm going to put up videos on how I fix any issue I come across. So Chryslers are known for having a lot of issues, but I'm going to keep putting videos out there on how I fix it, and hopefully it helps you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for checking this one out. Arise! Rise up! Arise! Come out of there! Arise! Yay!